we devised a new novel testing format which we believe can become the gold standard of radar detector testing. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Robert the VeilGuy. I'm pleased to introduce a new testing format that's something I've actually been thinking about for about 10 years or more since our participation in SML radar test type staged radar detector tests. And for those who have been following our work over the years, decades, you already know that we are most interested on how radar detectors perform in the real world as opposed to on closed course testing or staged testing environments. So what we've done is devise a test that represents what we believe to be a very difficult targeting scenario within these first series of videos with instant on radar from an obstructed hidden position. And we're going to be putting the best radar detectors that RadarBusters offers to pit against each other to see how each one handles these particular encounters. So I think you're going to find the information very, very informative, something brand new and novel, and we'll be bringing more of these tests shortly as we test more of these detectors. So in the meantime, enjoy this one. This first video is going to be a proof of concept. It has two detectors running together side by side, but we generally don't recommend running two detectors side by side, given the possibility for interference and or crosstalk, things of that nature. But just for the purposes of our proof of concept, you'll see how these detectors do.
First hit at exit 225.
34745. K band. KA band.
Second hit.
Front KA band. 34.
There you are.
745. 744.
I see it going by.
Roger, just past you.
Front K band 35476. Front K band 35476.
Passing you now.
Copy that.
Front K band 33816.
Passing you now.
Copy. I see it.
The R9 and the red line alerted at the same time.
3815.
Yeah, just past you. Nothing, no alert on the red line.
Okay, so there's our first series of tests, and looking at the results, I've come away with some interesting observations that this kind of information actually necessarily wouldn't come out in a closed course test. For example, with the well, let's go with the first video where proof and concept, where we had the two radar detectors, the R8W and the Redline 360c, side by side. And if you notice, looking at that, in two cases, one with the R8W and one with the Redline 360c, each detector missed an alert, or a detection failed to alert, which could suggest this is the kind of crosstalk or interference that can happen, which could be hard to determine. Generally, when you think of interference or running two detectors side by side, you think of falses. Well, the other side of that, which is even more difficult to determine, is that detectors can go to sleep, in effect, and not alert to a genuine detection because it's seeing something from the other detector. And in this case, that could very well have been the dynamic that was demonstrated in that video. So keep that in mind if you run two detectors. Certainly for testing, I wouldn't recommend running two together, but just keep that in mind. There is that potential risk that radar detectors can impact each other and reduce their sensitivity or alerting capabilities in any given moment. Okay, so the next three videos were KA, 34/7 Stalker, Kustom 35.5, and the MPH 33.8. And if you notice, it appears, radar detector antennas are tuned to specific frequencies, right? So KA is a very wide frequency, and so the physical design of the horn, in effect, the antenna, can be tweaked to be more sensitive to one portion of the band versus another portion of the band. And if you notice, I think a takeaway from these tests are that both the Redline 360c and in this case, the R9, which is custom installed just in the car all the time, gave less of a warning, only two alerts, two detections instead of three, at a somewhat reduced distance, and that's 33.8. So, but 34/7 and 35/5 seem to be more in the sweet spot for the detectors, and we had three alerts at a greater distance, right? So that was another takeaway. Another takeaway is that even though the response times on some detector alerts were better than the other at any given time, or the initial detection could have been at a further distance or farther distance, which is what you generally see on a closed course test, this range, this range, this range. The interesting thing in this type of test is that it demonstrates that isn't necessarily as important. At the end of the day, on the KA alerts, all of the R9 and the Redline 360c provided effectively equal performance in that they alerted 3 times, plenty of times, to an advanced warning prior to the alert. So in that respect, response times and or distances of the initial detection don't necessarily have a direct factor anymore, because you've got 3 notices, and that's 3 opportunities to slow down. So that was another takeaway. So it's just another different way to look at performance in the real world. And then the final takeaway, I think, was with the very difficult Custom Signals RP1K band 24.1. And in this case, as you can see, even on the R9, the ability to detect the RP1 in that particular kind of situation is very difficult. And we only managed to get 2 alerts. And in fact, just before we did the passing of the vehicle, when we were close with the 24.1, we still got a weak alert. It wasn't even stronger like it would be on the KA bands. And the reason for that is because it's a horizontally polarized, very low power patch antenna for the for that K-band unit. And it's designed, you'll see this in Pennsylvania, that's all they use pretty much exclusively, Pennsylvania State Troopers, these units in a hidden position for, basically pouncing at close range to a speeder potentially. So they're close quarter, close combat type radar, police radar device. Extremely difficult. And the Redline, unfortunately, 360c in its current form, even with the latest firmware, was unable to detect an alert to the RP1. So we've made Escort aware of that, and hopefully they can look into seeing what they can do to improve it. My sense is, looking at all these things, that obviously the sensitivity is there, and I just think it's a question of signal processing, i.e. firmware, software, that could perhaps elevate the performance. Now, we have other K-band units. I didn't want to test them yet. We didn't have the time, but we can run with other K units that are circularly polarized, not linear, horizontally polarized, and I'm sure we'd get better performance on K. But we wanted to pick what we consider to be the most difficult K gun to detect, and in one of the most difficult targeting scenarios for a detector to be able to detect. We really wanted to throw everything we could at that. And ultimately, the idea of all of this is we want to really try to separate out performance where it counts from the top tier detectors that could show well on a closed course test, like in the distance, constant on, radar all the way down the road, and both or all of them alerting at multi-miles and that kind of thing. That doesn't really tell you anything because they're all alerting. So you really want to test. The whole purpose of these tests and others that are going to come are to put you in situations where you need the radar detector's performance the most, which is advanced warning in this case to instant on radar that is not directly facing you from a hidden position. So what are the takeaways? I think there is maybe one other final takeaway insofar as responsiveness. My sense is that there is still room for improvement. This is just my interpretation of the Redline's alerting to KA, for example, to improve the responsiveness of the actual first alert, whether that's a light or a tone. My sense is the detector seeing it, and maybe there's a process of alerting that offers a delay, just an interpretation, that could be trimmed a little bit more. Don't know, but that's something I'd like to see if that's a possibility. And then the other thing, I think, and the final thing is, and I'm trying to remember what that was, yeah, the response times seem to be longer the farther you're away, and therefore the signal is weaker. And I wonder if that has to do with the algorithms to process the signals that it's detecting. But when you're closer, you got a strong 34/7. You're really going to alert versus one that's very weak and on the fringe. And maybe you take a little longer before you say, you know what, I'm going to alert on that. I'm going to look at it longer, the detector to look at it longer before alerting. Because it did appear to me that with the Redline, at least on one of those runs, the response time seemed to improve. I mean, get shorter, that is, in duration, the closer and the stronger the signal was. So these are some interesting observations. Perhaps you have other things that you've seen that I didn't see at these. I'd be interested to get your comments on them, what your perceptions are. But at the end of the day, I think it gives us a look at how these radar detectors perform in the real world, and gives data and behavioral information that you may not be able to determine just directly from course with distance, range, and frequency kind of thing. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. We have more coming. We have the R8W on deck. We're going to be producing another series of videos for that, and then we'll have the other series for other detectors as well. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe, ring that bell. We'll have more of this content This takes a lot of effort and a lot of time, not just to do the testing and the resources to do it, but then to put the videos together in such a way and then do the analysis. So there's a lot of work that goes in here behind the scenes to make this video possible. So we would appreciate your support. Please be sure to visit either stealthveil.com or RadarBusters.com for all your countermeasure needs. Please support the business, which puts the work in to help provide education to the consumer. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon again. Take care.